Introduction to Slicers and Sparklines. In Excel 2010, we have two new features, Slicers and Sparklines. We've already looked at Slicers in this course in Section 3 and Sparklines in Section 4. If you need more detail on these topics, you should have a look at our Excel Level 1, Level 2 and Level 3 courses available. Let's just remind ourselves where Slicers and Sparklines are in 2010. Here I have some data that's already inside of a pivot table. I can see at the top I have a Pivot Table Tools tab with Options and Design. If I click on Options in the Sort and Filter group, I'll see an option to insert a slicer. I already have two slicers, the Salesperson and Region slicers. If I click Insert Slicer, I can also insert other slicers here. These slicers' names are dependent on the data that's in your pivot table. Once you have a slicer on your screen, you can click on it, and now you have an Options tab for the slicer tools, and all the different properties that you can do and topics you can choose are here in that Slicer Options ribbon. If I click, for example, on Joanne, I am now filtering my pivot table under just Joanne, and I can see that in my regions, Joanne did not sell in the North region. If I click on another salesperson, again I can see the details of the regions, and I can also see that the pivot table has been filtered under that slicer. This is very handy for when giving presentations on data. The slicers can show information that maybe the pivot table doesn't. Sparklines, on the other hand, are charts, but they're individual charts for each individual line of data. So, for example, here I have different salespeople, and over here I'd like to show a trend or a sparkline showing me this information. Again, just to show you where this is, to do it, we select an individual cell, we go to the Insert tab, and in the Insert tab you'll see an option or a group called Sparklines, with lines, columns, and win-loss. If I click on line, I then have to tell it the data range, for example, January to July for the first salesperson, and then I press the OK button, and in goes the sparkline. I can drag it down so that the sparkline exists for each one of my individuals. Clicking on any sparkline that exists, I then have a Design tab for that sparkline with all, again, properties and topics to do with that particular tool. Clicking away from all of the information, I can now see my sparklines on my workbook. Again, to see these features in more detail, have a look at Section 3 and Section 4 or the other courses available to you in our Excel package.